Welcome. On the phone today, we have Matt Taylor. We're doing Darkside Enterprises onboarding for Cyberhoot. Matt's a MSP in California and has just joined Cyberhoot's managed service provider offering. Today, we're going to onboard Matt, and this video will be recorded for future reference by Matt and his team as he grows his company. And so let's get started. So the first thing we got to do is log in, and I was able to do this earlier this week. And I think, do I have it in here? Oh, I don't have it in here. Maybe I didn't do it earlier this week. I'm going to go down to the social, the default login, which is I usually create my own account to get into these environments. And I thought I had done that. In fact, I'm pretty sure I had done that. So we'll get there. I'm going to minimize this and get that 2FA coming in. Just refresh that and it'll jump up. Here we go. So this is the two-factor authentication that we have by default. We just pull this out and pop it in here and we log in. Now, if there's two administrators, there are. So this is interesting. Oh, okay. So I created you. I didn't create myself. That's what happened. Let me show you what we're going to do here, Matt, to start by creating a super admin. Notice that we're in customer settings here. This is the customer that we're talking about in this environment at the moment. If we click on the dashboard, we're looking at the statistics, number of policies, videos, users, administrators for the client, Darkside Enterprises. This client exists under an MSP, which happens to also be Darkside Enterprises. So as you add customers, you will switch between those customers here with this little button here and a drop down to switch into the customer you're supporting. That's the multi-tenancy. But this will always stay up here as Darkside Enterprises. So what we want to do is add a super user. To do that, you have to you can't be in the customer settings, which we were just in under customer settings. You need to be under the MSP settings, which is this wrench right here. And once you get there, you can look at this administrator, and here's where you can see this super user. So you know you're in the right place, adding super users if you see that when you're trying to work as the MSP. So the first thing we're going to do is create one for Craig to help you out and do support down the road. I don't want to use a support account. I like to know who's doing what, when, and where. So we just put this in here like this. And the only password requirements we have are 14 characters, non-complex. You don't need to do anything else than that. That's the new NIST standard. And we reference that in our training on password security, password hygiene, password managers. We no longer are ever recommending 9 characters, complex, uppercase, lowercase, 90-day expirations. That just makes people cheat all the time. Have you had a chance to log in yet? No, you haven't. And you can see that right here under last login. Do you notice these items here? I'm going to add a new account here, which I just did, add. And before I forget, I'm going to go and modify that account. There's a lot of viewable ones here, but it just comes in as a generic account here under Cyberhoot. So what I have to do is edit that briefly and just change this to Darkside Enterprises. That way I can find it and log in the future. So I'm going to log out briefly and we're going to go through that one more time. You could try and log in as well. You should have received an email from Cyberhoot from this site with your login credential. It's a temporary login. Do you know if you got that?
I don't recall getting it. I'm checking it right now.
All right. Well, we can check that in a moment as well. There's the new Darkside Enterprises. So we'll just do this and we will come over here and put that in there. Now, first time you log in, you get to see this screen just like I am. And this is true of client admins at the customer level or MSP admins, super users at the MSP level. So just know that there's a terms of service. There's some contact information at the end. It basically says that there's really no purpose to this tool of any kind, no guarantees, nothing. It's the standard EULA, right? Having said that, you wouldn't use it if it didn't work for you. So you click through, there's my email, my phone number, all that stuff. First thing you ought to do is set your time zone and change your password. This goes by the Americas, and you would have something out in California like, I don't know, San Francisco, but I have New York here, LMN. So I'm going to go to New York for me. update that. Then I have to change my password. It won't let me off this screen until I've changed my password. So I'm going to just fill it with my LastPass randomly generated password, and I'm going to change it, and I'm going to update something. Well, I have to choose which one I'm going to update. So I have to go, and this is the painful part of LastPass. It's really tiny. I can't even see what I'm going through here. I don't know if I can do that. Okay, so this is BDNet. I'm trying to get to Darkside Enterprises. I don't think that's ever going to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to change it again one more time. Not now, because I don't have it in my clipboard. I just let LastPass fill it in. This is one of the nuances of LastPass. So we're just going to do this, paste that there, change password. Okay, it was changed again. Then I can manually come into this list and go change it real briefly if I can find Darkside here. There we go. So I edit this. This will allow me in the future. If I show you that password, we'll just place that in there, save it, and we're good to go. So that's step one down for administrative access. You can do the same. Now, if you haven't received that access or you didn't see the email, we'll resend it to you right now. So I'm going to go in here, administrators. I'm going to edit you. And you can see now that I have a login from today's date. And I'll change your password just to generate something new. And we'll call this all right, and I'm going to send the notification, and this should get sent to you almost immediately. When you do something, anything in the site, you see the green box at the bottom right. It tells you, and I'm not going to save that, it tells you whether it was successful or not. So watch for the green notification that says something was successful. If it's yellow, it was successful, but there's something else you got to do. If it's red, it will prevent it from actually happening. It'll say, listen, you're trying to add a group, but there's nobody in the group, or you're trying to add a questionnaire to a policy or a video, but there's got to be a correct answer, and you didn't pick a correct answer in one of your questions. So it won't let you make those kinds of mistakes. It'll check and it'll warn you. You have to go back and fix it. So just be aware of that. Okay, so let's go and do a little customization for you. We've got Darkside Enterprises here. This here, the MSP. Let's add some information about your MSP. These are variables that get used within the policy, video, and survey messages. So we're going to start by adding your full name is Darkside Enterprises. Your short name might be Darkside. Is that correct?
Yeah, we use that. We reference that.
What is your primary contact email for support purposes or anything like that?
support@darkside.enterprises.
And do you have a contact phone number you want to put in here?
Yeah, we can do our main number, 212-784-6054.
Okay. And did you have a service name like for the particular CyberHoot items or services? Some people name their services, others just include it under their secure workstation support kind of thing.
Yeah, we're building out a portfolio of like a LMS, like a learning management system. So you know, you can call it Darkside LMS or whatever.
Okay.
Haven't fully gone to that vetting yet of deciding.
Okay, not a problem. You see the green here, we've updated all those fields. Now, when you notice that you have a contact number and a short name, email, all of this stuff, when you come to policy messages, we don't make you create anything. You remember that we email all assignments to the users that you load into the customers that you deploy. And those users have a single click to get to a training assignment. It's instant access, no password, and they take their training, they take a quiz, and they electronically sign their name. Well, that messaging has been set once at the MSP level. And when you add a new customer, they inherit this language for themselves as a client. Now you can then modify the client language for an individual client if you choose to. You don't have to, and most companies don't, but you can. If you had a really bizarre client, let's say it's I don't know, a law office or a medical office, and you want to change the language of communication to them in emails and things like that, then you could do that for just their messages for policies, videos, and surveys. But by and large, you're going to keep it like this. And the way it reads now is that, someone lands on the website after clicking a link to take an assignment, it'll say, Matt, welcome to the Darkside Enterprises Awareness Training and Governance Policy website. Here you will learn all about the things you didn't know with respect to cybersecurity. You landed here because Darkside Enterprises registered your company, and maybe this is Acme, for a cybersecurity policy that you need to read and acknowledge and so on. So this is standard language. You can change it just once. You can review this on your own time and just say, oh, I don't like the way that sounds. I want it to sound like this. All you got to do is go through it once. You have all these variables you can insert: customer name, policy link, MSP variables, MSP full name, short name, contact, phone, website, service, the people variables, and the time variables. You can insert any of these. So the way you do it is you just position the cursor and click the terms. So if you said, okay, just to show you, I'll put manager email, and it's a variable, gets popped right in. Did you see that? Okay. Okay, so there you have it. Now this language has been used and abused and updated for 5 or 6 years now. It's pretty robust. What we were talking about there is the website language. When you actually click a link, get to the website before you do your training, it welcomes every employee there. Here's the language that we get for the actual email. So if someone has a policy, let's say they have a password policy to read and accept, they'll get an email that says, Acme, password policy, email notification, review requested. Matt, your review of this policy is requested. Should take less than 15 minutes. You're receiving this email as part of Acme Corp's Security Awareness and Training Program, blah, 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 blah. And there you go. You got the MSP full name, so you get some Darkside Enterprises acknowledgement here. You might have defined a human resources contact at that customer site, and their name would be here, okay? You could add, besides just the full name, you could actually go over here and go under people variables and add the HR email. Maybe you want that. So you got the HR full name, HR email. Maybe they have a question. And so you could have that in there. Doesn't hurt to have it. We haven't included it in every spot, but it's a good example of what you could do to add it in if you so chose. And one other note, that HR name, full name, and email address is assigned based on the group and only the group. So when we define, when we add users in, they have to be added to a group. And that group, by default, we have one group called default. And there's a HR username that's owning that group called default. You may add another group, call it pilot. And in that pilot group, you might just put yourself, and you might test phishing attacks and your allow list work and making sure that the fish gets through the spam filters and into your own account by assigning a phishing test to the pilot group that only goes to you. And you might be the HR contact for that pilot group, so you get notified when something was sent and all that stuff. But the important point is up here in, I'm gonna show you this in a second. I'll get to the groups in just 1 second. So hold that group thought for a moment. First email, this is a mandatory email. Reminder is an optional in the assignments. You can turn that off. The due date email also goes to each employee's manager. If they haven't done their training by the due date, the manager knows. That helps with compliance. I think we went through this once before. Then you've got your HR contact. And so your job is to review this setup for the global messages at the MSP level for policies, videos, and surveys. Now we're going to go over to this little wizard here. Do you see this 5-button wizard? This is where it wants you to start for onboarding. We actually already did this. I skipped a step. I just did it before without using the buzzer. Now we're going to go to your customer configuration, Cyberhoot, Darkside Enterprises, customer settings. We've already got the administrators in here. We started there. Now we need to find your logo. Do you have a Darkside Enterprises logo we could upload?
We do.
Is it maybe available on the web as a just a little image?
Yeah, I gotta find it. We've got it. We've got it on our website.
Okay, so I have it here. Is this the one?
Yep, that's one of them.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll copy that. I just have a quick way of getting this done. I've got a bunch of those open, so we're just going to paste that in there. That's a great size and shape, so we're just going to call this Darkside Enterprises logo. It's a PNG, that's perfect. We come back over here, and I have to go find it. It's in a simple folder here on Cyberhoot, temp, and Darkside. There we go. Okay, so now it's in there. There's your name. We're going to click update. Guess what? It's all replaced. There you go. On to features. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Okay, good. Features. We enable this by default. This is the policy. If you go in here and you add policies to govern a client of yours, a WISP, password policy, acceptable use policy, an information handling policy. Those are 4 main ones, but there's plenty of others. And there's a whole series of policies, templates that we make available to you in Cyberhoop. So explore that. And I'll show you that before we finish today. Well, you can have, when you assign them, the ability for an end user to email that policy after they accept it to themselves. Some people say, we have too much information in our policies, I don't want it being emailed. I'll let them download it over an SSL connection, but I can't guarantee email's encrypted. It usually is 99% of the time today, but we might turn that off. So you can just turn that off and that feature won't exist. But we have it on by default that people can just send a policy via email after they've read it, and because they want to reference it down the road, and it's most easily stored in their inbox or in their email so they can go search for it later. Dark web reports, I usually turn this off for any client that I onboard, for the simple reason that if you define administrators at that client and you're in the process of onboarding them and getting them used to and acclimated to Cyberhoot, you might not want to overwhelm them with like, there's these 40 accounts that have been exposed online for your users. Well, what do? I'm a new administrator. I'm barely aware of cybersecurity. I'm going to learn about it, but I don't need to know. I don't know what to do with these dark web, exposed accounts. Maybe leave that off for a couple of weeks or a month or two. Turn it on later once they're up and running and things are smoothed out. Then you can say, hey, George, I'm going to turn on your dark web reports. Don't panic. This is data that's been exposed online. If any of your users were in Dropbox or LinkedIn or Yahoo and 10 billion other places, they might be in this exposed account report. We turn this on, we share this with you so that you can notify your users that they've had these accounts exposed, and it reinforces the training that we give you on good password hygiene, on why you want to adopt a password manager, and those kinds of things. It really underscores and drills home the importance of improving your company and your employees' password hygiene. But that's something I would suggest you wait on. Now, for you, because you're your own MSP here, might as well just turn that on for you so you get it right away, because I would assume you know what you're doing with that. Now, management compliance reports. When you load users in and they don't do their training, they're non-compliant. And we send out a weekly report to all managers that you load into the Cyberhoop product that says, here's your employees that report to you, Matt, and their compliance level. And it's an Excel spreadsheet, and you see green for compliant employees, red for non-compliant employees, and blue, little icon-based color coded scheming, blue for employees that are compliant but haven't done the current assignment that's still in its period of performance, right? Whenever you get assignment, you get typically a 2-week window to do the training. And so during that 2 weeks, you're neither compliant if you haven't done the training, and you're not compliant because the training isn't due yet. You're in this middle period. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
It does.
Okay, good. So we'll leave the reports on. You'll get that. 2-factor is enabled by default. So every time you go to log in, you're going to get an email to your own account that has the 6-digit code. You cut and paste it in, you get in, and you're good to go. So let's just update that. Now, notice this says customer as opposed to where we started with MSP. Here, you can actually customize the messaging for just Darkside enterprises, okay? When Darkside was created as a client, they inherited the default language that was set up with the first time at the MSP level. And look at that, there's the new logo now. See how it just popped up? So what we want to do, excuse me, I think we got popped you know what it is? This is a, excuse me, I forgot about this. I just learned this the other day from the developers. They're like, hey, did you know that clicking on your MSP name brings you back to the dashboard? I was like, no way, I didn't know that. Okay, so that's what happened. I clicked it by accident and brought us to your dashboard here. So we need to go back to the customer settings. Okay, here we were looking at customer settings. If you want to change any of the messaging across all of the customers' policies, videos, and surveys, you can do it on these 3 screens. And every time you go to the programs and you clone a series of videos for the year of cybersecurity training, or if you clone a product training, remember you started off by saying big brain product training. We have over 50 programs in here on all manner of Microsoft product, LastPass, 1Password, on ADP, QuickBooks, Salesforce, and a whole bunch of others. They're all in here, product videos. They're little 1-minute videos, no Q&A, no question and answer for them. You just assign it to an employee or a group and they can watch and learn how to use 1Password, Teams, whatever your project or product you're rolling out for a customer. They can get additional training, which is a great service and value add from Darkside to provide to their clients. Like I know a number of MSPs that are in the process of migrating people from their client base from Slack, which is the instant messaging solution because it costs money, over to Teams, which up until this year was not ready for prime time. Microsoft tried but failed to get a good instant communication solution, but now it's actually on par or better than Slack. And the biggest thing is it's free. So companies are migrating to it. Well, we have training on that. You can assign that as part of the migration project that every employee that's going into Teams gets and has to take Teams training. It's a 1-minute video for 9 days on how to operate Teams, at messaging and linking to instant messages or instant meetings, video meetings, or phone calls, like all of the nuances of how you operate Teams. And it just adds so much value that you look like a hero because people, they want to, when they're learning a new technology, be given little snippets of information on how to do certain things. Okay, and if you're rolling out a password manager, we have that for LastPass or 1Password. And I'll guess that if you have a different password manager you're rolling out, you could find product videos and add them in from the vendor on that and create your own program. It's simple and it's all possible in here. Okay, so I think that's enough said on that front. So we've gone through that. The configuration of both your MSP settings and your customer settings, your account changes. Now let's go to users and groups. Up until this point, there's not a single user in the site. I did add you earlier this week when I was in here. I added you as a user, but I had to do that manually because when I added you as an administrator, that is not a user that can be assigned anything. You can be an administrator, but it's completely treated separately. It's like separation of duties. You can't have an administrator that you're assigning, creating assignments for. You have to create a user for that person, for that purpose, okay? And so when I was in here earlier this week, I did create you as a user. And you can see here, you're all set, you're green. I actually created you as your own manager as well, I believe. So here we have Matthew Taylor as the user, email address, and Matthew's manager is himself, right? And let's say it wasn't supposed to be Matthew. Maybe it's your wife. I don't know. What's your wife's name?
Tatum.
Tatum. So if I wanted to add that, I could put Tatum in here, right? And maybe if you're like me, I get managed by my wife too. So we have that. So what we have here is you could add them on the fly or just select them from the drop-down list as you go in and add people, if you were to add them manually. Now, many people do not want to add things manually. That you can do a CSV upload. So if you have an export from AD or something else, you can do a CSV upload. The format of the file is available here if you export, if you get the sample download, the sample CSV, you can click that. It's just a CSV. If you fill the form out this way, you want to make sure you follow this format to the letter. And most importantly, you need to save it as an MS-DOS version CSV file. That's what the site likes the most. And we let you know that here as well. So you need the first name, the last name, email address of the individuals, the manager's first name, last name, and email address, and then the group. And usually the group that we start with is default. So you would just put default in all of these columns here, okay? But that's option 2. Remember, the first option is to manually add users with the one at a time add user. The next is sample, or if we go back to the administrative customer settings, there was one more I didn't cover, Azure AD. You can build Azure AD into this. Now there was a big red X here. What was that about? Huh, interesting. We have a Houston, we have a problem. It shouldn't be doing that, and I don't know why that is. We come across here. Did you turn some of these off?
Nope, I haven't logged in.
Interesting. Update that. Why are they on? So this is very interesting. We seem to have something going on. I've never seen this in all my time here, where I enable this, I update it, and it refuses to take. So then when we come over here, we get this red box. That has never happened in 50 onboarding. So permit me to shell out for a moment and ask Chuck to get the developer to look at this, because that's never supposed to happen. Give me 1 second. We are on Slack on the free version of it. Okay, Chuck, in an onboarding with Darkside Enterprises, and we have hit a speed bump when trying to access the Azure AD integration. I get a red error box in the bottom right of the screen, and I cannot save the features page at the moment. Never seen this before. Can you please take a look now, as this is a 911 for the onboarding. So I'm just going to give him that, and by the time we get through a few more things, he'll have taken a look. I suspect there was an upgrade that was done recently that maybe introduced something that wasn't. He was talking about pushing some stuff out earlier, like this morning. So I would be surprised though, because I just never seen that before. 1 second here, Chuck. Sent you a Slack message. Need immediate response and investigation. Okay, so you'll find that dealing with a company like us, we're pretty proactive about solving those kinds of things. And I've never had to do this before. That's a bizarre one. Okay, so
one question before you move on the Azure AD piece. When it's functioning, does that simply just import the users into there, or do they actually log in through Azure AD?
No, it's just an import, the former. So we don't ever make a user log into anything. They just click their link in their email and they go instantly take their training, read the policy, take a survey, there's no login. So we're instant access to training, and that improves our overall compliance of people taking the training, actually doing the work. What you do have to do with Azure AD integration is you have to pick the right group that has everybody. We've also created an ability, if you grab a group and say you have a support mailbox in that group, well, there's only one of you and two consultants. You're not going to have support and Matt in Cyberhood. So you can exempt certain accounts that might be in that group from receiving training. So you can do all of that in the interface in about 5 to 10 minutes. You have a tenant ID, a client ID, and a secret key to set up. I was going to show you that. If Chuck fixes it in time, we'll go back and we'll recover this, okay? But I'll send you an all clear one way or the other. We'll have this fixed before the end of the day because there's, I think it's just.
Yeah, and I'm very familiar with Azure setting up multiple applications, so that won't be a problem.
Mm-hmm. Great, great. And so perfect. All right, that's refreshing because then you'll be all set. Okay, so we had talked about account and user. Was there any other users that you wanted to add to the system?
No, not right now, at least.
So we're just going to suffice it to have you. And notice that I have default group and pilot group. And if you look at here under user group management administration, you have these two groups, the default group, pilot group. If you ever wanted to add your consultants, I would put them into the default group and keep yourself just as the pilot group for your testing purposes. And then managers, you can edit people. When you get clients, when you put clients in here, you could have dozens of managers, and people sometimes shift managers, and it's as simple as, adding a new manager and then dragging and dropping between managers if you had to change something. And they will let you know that, hey, Matt doesn't respond to me. Matt reports to Fred over there. So please, I don't want to get those reports for Matt's compliance. So please change it. And so that may be something you have to do. Now that can be pulled in via AD if you take the time to define the manager structure within AD. You don't even have to worry about this stuff. In fact, this becomes more of a fail-safe for the setup in AD, that if you made a mistake or didn't define a manager, you'll get notified that something's missing here in Cyberhood. And then you can go fix it in the one source of, master database, the Azure AD, and it will automatically update here. Make sense?
Perfect.
Okay, so let's go back over here. And video and training hoots. So remember we talked about the assignments that come from policies, videos, surveys, and phishing. Here you have video hoots. That takes us right to here. We want to start assigning training. So we have active. There's no videos active today. There's no pending videos. There's no archive videos. Well, the archived this is an automatic thing. This is how we populate your database by moving things in and out. But here's the training library. It has, I think, 671 videos in it now. And you'll notice many of these are product videos. Like here's the product videos for 1Password. If you said, well, I don't deploy 1Password, I deploy LastPass. Well, you can search over here in the search bar and you'll see all the product videos. We have 39 password videos on LastPass, okay? You can find and assign videos one at a time if you wanted a specific thing. Let's say you wanted a phishing video. You can search for phishing and you see we have 13 different videos on phishing. But better than that is to come over to programs, and with your permission, I'd like to assign you yourself our foundational program. So you're taking the same training your clients would, and you're starting it a little sooner than them so that you can see what they're going to see, and you can know and be 100% clear and aware of the process your clients are going through. So Chuck just got back to me. Okay, so Chuck's going to start looking at that. That's good. With your permission, I will show you what you'll be doing for your clients, and then you can re-reference this video and see it. But are you okay with taking the training just like your clients?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I found for you here is Cyberhood Foundational Training Program, Year 1 recommended. This is a collection of videos that build upon themselves. You can see it at the bottom here. You have the Introduction to Cyberhood video. You have spotting and avoiding phishing attacks. You have passwords, passphrases, and password managers. These are all Cyberhood produced videos. Manage many benefits of a password manager. two-factor authentication, Wi-Fi, and securities. Those videos all are part of a fundamental core competency that all your users must have. Beyond that, we have third-party videos that round out the year with social engineering, USB keys, business email compromise, cybersecurity in the home, physical security, mobile device, and social media security. Let's say though, and this is important for your knowledge base, you don't want to do cybersecurity in the home. You can just drag and drop it out of that program before you clone this. You can say, well, I would probably want to replace it with something. What do we have here? Oh, well, CryptoLocker. I kind of like that one. That's important. It's about ransomware. It's important for my clients to learn and know about. Let me move that one in. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Maybe though, you want that cybersecurity in the home. You just wanted to add CryptoLocker to it. So you can come down here, and instead of having 13 videos, you can have 14 videos. You can make this as long as you want. You could schedule 5 years of training at one time if you wanted. But I usually do 12, 13 months. And so we go from there. So that's the video content. Up here is where you have to make a couple of choices. Okay. Your interval, typically the 99% of the customers I have are on once a month, 3 to 5 minute video, questionnaire, and done. There's only 1% that do quarterly, and nobody does weekly, other than product videos, which they might even do daily. But for the cybersecurity training, they usually choose to do it once a month, and they do start on one of two dates. Usually they start on the 15th of the month, or they start on the 1st of the next month, so that every employee at that customer knows, it's the 1st of the month, I have a training to do. 15th of the month, I have a training to do. Doesn't matter if it's on a weekend or a weekday, it's always on that date each month. So for you, I would suggest you start in 2 days' time on November 15th. And then when you first clients get in here, put them in at 12/1 on December 15th if you load anybody in before then. But that way you'll have done the same training program 2 weeks prior to them, and you'll know exactly what they're going to see. Now, I also see here that you can choose the different messaging options for those emails that get sent out to the end users, and let me explain that to you. When we started and logged in, we went to the global MSP settings. That's these messages right here. Those are the ones that are branded for Darkside Enterprises. But remember, we copied it down into the customer's messaging. And if you modify the customer's standard default messaging, you could choose to use that when you clone this program. So if you had a doctor's office and you just change the wording just to be maybe more medically professional or what have you, you would want to choose that. But most of my MSPs just choose the MSP language. At the other side of it, you could use the master database of Cyberhoot logo, which is already 95% branded for you, but it's an option there as well. I would just say use the MSP language once you get it right and to your liking. Here, you double click that to assign these videos to the default group, which is everybody. And good. And by the way, Chuck's already fixed your environment. He's got a little bit of a red face because he did something that broke things in his latest release. We do, agile development. So we make a lot of little releases and we do as much testing as we can, but sometimes it's unavoidable where something happens and we just have to go back and fix it. And that's, I think, what happened today. Yeah. With your permission though, I'm gonna clone this and we'll go back to that other screen.
Sure.
You good?
Yep.
Okay, so where's the feedback loop? Always a little green. Training program added to the mix. So you've got that feedback. Now, before we leave this program hoots, let me go into program library and just show you some of the product training. You said Excel, right? You said, well, sometimes we use big brain for Excel. Look at the basics. We have 16 videos from Microsoft on Excel training. These are the topics. What is Excel? Fill data automatically, insert, delete rows, all the basics, right? 16, these are 1-minute videos, 1 day at a time. You can start at any time and your users can just go through and become experts. And then they have access to these videos in the future under My Cyberhoot, so they can go back and re-review it. Let's say, well, I've got a bunch of basic users, but I have some advanced users that are trying to do pivot tables. All right, well, let's look at Excel Advanced. Here's the topics from Microsoft on, okay, adding a watermark, Excel, securing the file. Here we have, creating pivot tables, working with pivot tables, group data in pivot tables. You know, I could probably go through and take a refresher on some of this stuff myself. But you could do all your product training right here using the best of the best videos from Microsoft, and you'd be good to go. You might not need that big brain. You might still need it. I don't think we have everything exhaustively, but you can also see this button here. You can add your own program. So you could create something that didn't already exist in here, and then boom, you're off to the races, and it's part of this product. You don't have to pay extra for it. Okay, so there's that. That might be a money-saving idea. And then if you're looking for things, look here, you've got ADP, and keep in mind, there's this drop down. You can go to 100. You got ADP. You got, let me see, Kanbanshi. That's a project management solution. You got a bunch of Microsoft stuff. QuickBooks, Salesforce, Slack, Square, Stripe, Zoom. Zoom's a big one, right? Maybe your users are using Zoom, or maybe they're using Teams. You got 3 different sets for Teams. So all of that is in there and ready for you at your leisure. Okay, let's go back for a moment on customer settings and see if this is back to normal. Okay, so we're gonna do this, and if it isn't, we might have to log out and log back in. I'll update that. Yeah, so that didn't work. So let me do this. He fixed it. I'm gonna log out and I'm gonna log back in, and that should take care of the problem. And he's looking at why it happened now, so we don't make the same mistake twice. Hey, we're not perfect. Notice that I didn't have to 2FA. We have a timer that says you can be logged in. If you log out, go back in a certain amount of time, a short window, you can get back in. So let me go over here to customer settings, features, and see if he actually fixed it. Now I might eat my words here. Yeah, no, it's still not working. Let me see this. Okay, this part worked. Let me let him know that the features is not working properly. All right. This is the Azure AD integration. And the first thing I'm going to do is show you, if you want to enable it, that's great. You can put in the tenant ID, the client ID, the client secret. Let me show you this part. This is kind of cool. Open this in a new link. We have exact instructions for every single page under our how-to directory. Bookmark this page when you get a chance, cyberhoot.com/how-to, because we have a whole bunch of training little instruction videos, like tiny little, how do you do this, how do you do that? But for Azure integration, you know, you want to add the enterprise application. So you click that link, you have a PDF that walks you through where to click and exactly how to set this up. Now, you're an expert in AD, so you probably don't need this level of detail, but there are many other MSPs out there that might need that level of detail. So we always have that link here. Once you get the tenant ID, client ID, secret, you can add excluded users here. Remember, we said you might want to remove support at darkside.enterprises. You can add a group that you define. You have to find that group. That group should also have the users in it, have their managers defined. So there might be a little bit of Azure work as you're onboarding clients to make sure that you're updating that manager field, because sometimes, many times, most times, that's not done. And so if you're going to use that in Azure AD as your authoritative database, you probably ought to keep those managers in place and keep it accurate. The good news is your managers inside your client environments will tell you when you got it wrong, and if someone's reporting to the wrong person. I have dozens of emails a month from my clients, because I'm a virtual chief information security officer for about a half dozen companies in New England. I use that and I keep that fresh so that as we develop CyberHoot, I'm knowing what problems they're facing. I'm solving them myself. I'm dealing with it. I'm drinking my own wine, using the tool, and having a blast doing it all. So I can make the tool better and better and better as a vCISO and as an MSP. Does that make sense?
It does.
Good. Okay, great. So all of that being said, I think that's done. Features tab. Chuck's asking in features tab or features in Azure settings. No, features tab. I told you it's not saving. Not saving. Settings. Okay, let's go back to the wizard. Okay, so we did the videos. You're all set up on videos. You're all set on users. You're all set on configuration and account changes. Let's go to policy hoots. We'll show this real briefly. We're a little over time. I'm sorry. Do you have an extra minute or two beyond 1 o'clock?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, great. All right, active, pending, archived, and template library. This is where a lot of intellectual property lives within Cyberhoot. If you aren't an expert at policy management and development and governance, we take the guesswork out of it. You do not need to create anything. All you need to do is edit the policies that we've created for your clients. So if you had because every client, if they're going to be audited, they have to have a set of policies that govern their employees. Okay, not every client is audited, so not every client will need policy governance. Should they have it? Absolutely. You know, like anything, a good cyber program has 5 things, Matt. It has policies that tell the employees what they should be doing independent of any oversight. When they have independent decision making, here's what you ought to do. That's the policies. Training on the policies and on the technologies and on the tools. The attacks that they will face, phishing attacks, password attacks. So they need training on all of those things. They need an assessment or a risk management framework. So you can use our tool. If you know here, we'll get into surveys in a moment. You can do a risk assessment using Cyberhoot's NIST-based assessments to create a risk management framework, create some project revenue for yourself on remediation, things like, hey, you're not using a password manager, you should be. Let me help roll that out for you and manage it. LastPass now has a multi-tenancy offering under their enterprise version. So that's a fantastic option for somebody like you. So you need the risk management framework in addition to the policies and the training. You need technology protection. So you know you have an RMM tool, you have antivirus, you have spam filters, you have 2-factor authentication, you have full disk encryption, or you have encrypted backups. All of those are technology protections for the data in the company. And the 5th and last thing you need is cyber insurance, which you already said you include for your clients. So you've got all the components here of a great cybersecurity program for your clients, but many times the policies get forgotten or not used. We hopefully help you move you from a create mode into an edit mode for that. So just know that you can download these Word documents. They're really quite robust. They've been through dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of audits. They're Word documents, so you can just come in and search and replace with the instructions that we write here. Now you might want to replace the Cyberhoot logo with your own logo or the client logo, but you notice you have version control, approval control, revision period, last review date, table of contents, applicability, an introduction, use applicability. Anything in yellow, you ought to check against the customer you're deploying it to. Do they have an information handling policy that categorizes things into 3 groups: general, sensitive, and critical? Do they do 2-factor authentication on VPN or remote access? You have to reflect reality. Even, you even have maybe they want it in the future. Well, that would be an update to the policy. Right now, when you publish a policy, it has to reflect what they're doing today. You have general data protection. Here's one for you. You have California Consumer Privacy Act. We have some CCPA. Who's going to be your data protection officer? How are you going to handle non-public personal information requests to be forgotten? How are you going to authenticate the person saying, hey, I'm Matt Taylor. I want you to delete my data. No, you're not. You're Craig Taylor. Oh, you caught me. I was going to try and delete Matt's data, right? You have to have processes to accommodate that. And so you can define that in the WISP. All of that is in here. Okay, so that's the policies. In the videos, we assign videos. Remember, we have assigned videos for you, but there's nothing active. Now, here's a skill testing question to see if you paid attention. Where are all those videos?
They're not assigned to me, so you need to go to the training library to assign videos out to the users or the groups.
Nope. Good try, but that's incorrect. We did assign them. Remember, we went into the programs and we assigned them to the default group of which you are a member. So they are in here. They're just here under pending
Right.
because nothing is launched yet. Right, on Sunday, the 15th of November, 2 days from today, this video will launch, the first one, which is a welcome to Cyberhoot video. Here's what you can expect. We're going to talk about phishing and passwords and other things, and we're really happy that you're here. If you want to create your own video, let's say you have some videography skills, maybe you want to create a welcome to Darkside Enterprises video and make that the first video, and then follow up with a Cyberhoot introductory. You could do a little 1 minute, 2 minute video with a half decent microphone, and you could create something pretty cool for your clients that would really make you shine as an MSP that says, here's how you get support, here's our hours of operation, here's the best way to engage us, and what information we need to solve your problem, and what's included, what's not included, blah, blah, blah. You could do a welcome to Darkside Enterprises, and you'd be like way ahead of all the other MSPs out there, and you could put that in here. So that could be an automatic that's given to every client when they onboard with you. Whatever you decide, it's an open system. You just need to think creatively and put it out there. All right, we didn't cover surveys, so we'll get into that for a moment. Active, pending, archived, and survey library. This cybersecurity survey is a 10-question, high-level, quick and dirty risk assessment that you can run for your clients. Charge $3,000 to $5,000, create a roadmap out of it, and really give them that beginnings of a risk management framework. Now, with your background, I'm guessing that you would be able to do that with your eyes closed pretty much. If you want to view the survey, you just click this button. This is our survey module. It doesn't come like this. You have to clone it, and then but these are the questions and answers. So when you do sign it, you get to a page that just asks this question: do you train your staff? And you have a NIST schedule of 5 answers from 0 to 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in terms of maturity. We don't train our staff all the way to we train, test, measure, and address failures of our staff monthly on cybersecurity topics, and we have phish clicking rates below 5%. Like, that's the holy grail of most optimized awareness training in a company, right? Do you govern employees? We have no policies, we have all these policies. Do you document and comply with your processes? Okay, we do or we don't. And do you comply with laws and regulations, CCPA, risk management? Do you have that in place? Crisis management, backup of data, technology. And so, there's 10 questions here. It's a really quick dive into it. You could add a couple of your own to it to just round it out, and you'd be golden to do a quick risk assessment. On this deep dive, you have like 80 questions. So there's a lot more, and it's broken into the top 20 NIST topics. So here you have, this may or may not be familiar to you: inventory of authorized devices, inventory of authorized software, secure configurations and hardware, vulnerability assessments and remediation, and you go on and on and on. So that's there. Okay, so you could use that. So that's surveys. Phishing, there's no phishing tool that's simpler to set up than ours. And that means it's not as robust as, say, KnowBe4, where you have 100 different choices to make to make it just so perfect that it does take a little bit more time to set up. But ours is simple. You just click Add Campaign, and you have 4 or 5 questions to answer. Baseline phishing test. You have a choice of Amazon, Apple, Google, Johns Hopkins, LinkedIn, Microsoft, Netflix, Small Business Administration. You've got all these different topics, and you can get a year's worth of quarterly phish testing in a heartbeat here. We just introduced this module earlier this year, so we're going to add more phishing campaigns, and we're working on this one so you can actually, as the administrator, see what it would look like for the end user getting the email. But I can tell you that we get very, very, very high click rates and data entry rates for the untrained clients that do a quick baseline test before they start training. I've had 40% click on the phishing link, and of that, maybe 10% enter their credentials into the phishing landing page for Microsoft or Apple or LinkedIn. So it does work. You have to set the start date for the emails to go out and the finish date where they stop being sent, and every minute between there is randomly sent to those users. So if you have 100 users and you pick today and tomorrow, it's going to randomly send those messages out over the course of 24 hours. You have the group assignment. So this is where I would say test, because you have to allow list our mail relays in order to get those phishing tests into the inboxes. Otherwise, all the phishing vendors, all the spam vendors out there will quarantine that message or will delete it because it has a very devious lookalike domain name. You know, we're using Amazon is ARNOZON or AZON. You know, so we've taken the M in Amazon and we've replaced the letters R and N, which combine to an M. So we've got a lot of those things in there, and all of the spam vendors will block that. So you have to test first with a pilot group, and then later you can then create it for everybody else in the default group once you've got successful tests done. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, and that's just about it. Now, when you go to add your own customers, when you're saying I've sold it, I want to add a client, you must go under MSP settings. Here's your MSP settings, and over here is the add customer button. And this is a 7 or 8 step wizard. It's going to be 7 in a day or two because we're about to release a wizard correction where there's one step in this that you don't do. You don't assign any training in this wizard, which there's step 7 is assigning training. Don't do that. If you have to add somebody before we update the interface, but you give it a name, you go through 7 steps, you give the logo of the client, et cetera, and you just follow. It's very straightforward on how to get a new customer into this. And once you've got them in, you just do that same process that we did with the bell. You go through adding the configuring the administrators, then adding users, then adding training. Policies usually comes down the road. One of the most critical and final things I want to share with you, Matt, is that anytime you deploy Cyberhoot to a customer environment, you must click this button and it sends an email to the logged in administrator who clicks that button. So right now it's sending it to me. That email needs just a tiny bit of configuration where you put the name of the client that's getting that's being onboarded into the tool. You might change the date to reflect the start date of the first training assignment that you're sending to that customer's employees. And you send it to someone at the customer who can then forward it to everybody at that client environment to say, hey, everybody, we're starting up this training program with Cyberhoot from Darkside Enterprises. You must do this training. It's not a phishing attack. Click the link, do the training, and you're going to be held accountable for this. If you don't take that step and send that email to yourself, you will find that your compliance rates are just miserable because people ignore those emails. They won't do the training if they haven't been told to expect it. Does that make sense? By a trusted advisor at the company site. Here's what that email looks like. I sent that just a few minutes ago, so I'm going to go look at it here. So come back. Here's that email. Oops. What we have here is it's branded. So you see it's got Darkside Enterprises for, and this is where you'd have Acme Corp for the customer name. And here's where you have to start changing it. So this would be Acme employees. In the 21st century, we do all this at Acme employees at Acme. On December 1st, we do this, you know, you're going to get your first training assignment. It's going to come from darkside.cyberhoot.com. And if you need support, either you can replace this with support at darkside.enterprises, or you could put support at the client environment, and then you change the customer name. So you just have to modify this ever so slightly, send it to your primary contact at that customer that you're deploying the training to, and just implore them to send this out before December 1st, because otherwise all of these training links will be ignored and nothing will happen. Managers need to be told, hold your employees accountable, that kind of thing. And then there's this little, graphic, a picture's worth 1,000 words. You're going to read a policy or watch a video. You're going to take a quiz if there is one, and you're going to type your name in and click the green box when it appears, and you're done. Now, this green box, just one word about that, it has a gray text for the employee's name. Sometimes Azure AD has the wrong spelling of an employee's name, and you'll get an email from the employee saying, I can't get the green box to show up. I type my name and it doesn't show, because they're typing their name how it's supposed to be, and what's in Azure AD has a spelling mistake, or they're just not paying attention. So you have to ask them, how are you spelling your name? And then go check Azure AD. It's happened to me probably 6 times across the cyber landscape, because people make mistakes. You're typing quickly and you mistype something, and maybe it's only in the name, not in the email address, so that it just gets overlooked. But they're typing in their exact name as shown in the gray text to get the green box to have a legally binding signature. We have to do it that way. So that's just one common support question. Excuse me. And that's it. We are now officially done your training. So let me stop the recording right here. And we'll go here. Oh, I guess it just automatically stopped. Excuse me.